Well, hello again. Frank from the Old Town Coleman Center. Back in October of 2024, I traveled to Bozeman, Montana, where I made a couple videos with my friends Dwayne and Darcy of D&D LanternWorks. And while I was videoing there, they kind of indicated that part of their collection was in their winter home in southern Utah. So guess where I am? I made the trip to southern Utah. So go get yourself a cup of coffee, relax, and when we come back after my intro, we'll do D&D Part 3.
Which end are we starting from?
Which end would you like to start from?
That end. Let's go that end.
Let's go this end? Okay.
Yeah.
Part 3, you got it.
So this is a sunshine safety by New Light, same as the number 10. And this one's really cool. I mean, if you look at this thing, it's really clean. It has no cracks in it. And believe it or not, it was found just like that with the original shade on it.
Really?
Yeah, this is just like it was sold. This one is really cool.
Came out of a school in Martinez, California.
Yeah.
An old schoolhouse.
Old schoolhouse. The schoolhouse had it as a backup lamp. It had been in there for years.
Wow.
Yeah, it's really has an interesting history. So it probably was never burned much, and it's pretty much like new. So this is a Gloria number 2.
Mm-hmm.
It's a number 2 because of the shade. The shade is in the catalog. It was made by Macbeth Evans. It's really a fascinating shade. This section of glass and this section of glass are separated, and they're held together by like a piece of spring steel that goes all the way around. I found it in a Macbeth Evans catalog from 1913. This is a Nightlight Sunray. That would have been the original, the way it came with the shade, and then I actually bought it complete. It came just that way. Next one's an Akron. This was Akron's Cremex shade. It was really funny. I just had someone ask me the other day about did they have a name for these, and they just called them an art glass shade. They didn't have any description of the bird logo or everything. It gets confused with the Coleman 444, and the thing I tell people to look at, this decal has 2 birds, and the Coleman decal only has 1 bird. So that's a good way. Plus the fact this is an Akron diamond, and it has the diamond at the bottom, and it's in the book. Back is another Akron diamond, and this is the traditional Akron diamond shade that you see a lot, and it also has a diamond in the bottom. It was really interesting that Akron had those distinctive logos in their shades, that they put the diamonds in there so you could tell. This is another Akron diamond, but this one was made for Montgomery Wards, and it'll say Montgomery Wards around the fuel cap.
Right. And that's the original shade for it.
This is a really interesting lamp. You're not going to see many of these if you look at this. This is an AGM 35, but there's only like 2 catalogs that show it with this shade. This was the original way it would have been shipped. It was a very, very late shade. I mean, they used that into the mid to the late 30s. So this is a Gloria Model H, which they're, in talking to several people, the Gloria Model H and the Sunray are almost identical. The top of the handle is different, but when you look at the advertising, some of the advertising has the cap on top, some of them don't. So there's a lot of speculation of who made the Gloria and Nightlight. Did Gloria make them? Did Night make them? Were they the same? don't know, but they're very similar lamps. So that would have been the more expensive one with the expensive shade, and this would have been the standard way they were sold.
Okay.
Rib shades were pretty much a standard. One in the back is a Thomas Kerosene. It's kerosene. Yeah, the kerosene was because it was kerosene. That's the 1918 version. This one's a foot.
Never even heard of it.
See? Foot.
And it's that particular model is the hard to find model, and it came with the original
See,
wrench.
it has the
Wow.
wrench.
And that's the harder of the foot models to find,
Yeah,
according to Terry Marsh.
according to Terry. Okay, and then this trio is San Diego Lamp Company.
I think the one on the right is the earlier one.
This is the earlier one, and this is the later one. And then this is the only lamp they made.
They made the lamp in either a nickel finish or a brass finish.
You could get either.
And it was, I think, branded Liberty Lamp. Liberty Light.
Lamp was the name of them, and Liberty Lantern.
Yeah. Yeah, that's something, those are the only three that San Diego made, the two different style lanterns and the lamp.
And the one lamp. Okay, rest are CQs with the standard 329 shades on them. This one has a bug screen, and if you look in underneath, you can see the bug screen on that one. These are the first bug screens. The small ones are earlier, and then they went to the big one that was easier to drop and use. These you had to light them in underneath.
Those came as a pair from Billings, Montana.
Yeah.
Somebody bought those together. The dates are the same. I just left the shade off of that one to show the bug screen and the clips that hold the bug screen on.
Yeah, the story we got is the lady that had sold them, they'd been hers her lifetime.
And those actually would have also been C362 lamps if it had had the 062, the 462 fitter on it. The date stamp and the stuff that's on the lamp would have made it that.
Here's one of the ways to tell if somebody really wants to know. See this tightening thing that's on the later lamps with here and there instead of the...
Right.
They did these so they didn't compress as much. And this is only found on the 362s. They didn't make the 362s with the nut. So if you want to do a 362, they have to match.
And the date range has
Yeah,
stuff.
and the date has to match. Pretty much all CQs down to the end. The first version of a 324. The next one is a medallion, which would have been a 318 in the middle times, mid-20s. And then later in the late 20s, this was a 318, but they used the same numbers, but they changed what the shades they were selling under those numbers. 117 and a 119, and this one's really interesting, something that I found out. The 119 has always been described as green gold, but when they finished making them, evidently the green gold didn't sell well. So they made the 318 and the 319 both in this brown gold version later on, but it was the shade number that made the difference. So if you had this brown gold with this one, it was a 318. If you put the fancy 444 on it, it was a 19. They just changed it with what shade. The lamps were the same.
Okay.
They just changed with the shades. Now, something we were looking at earlier. So these shades are custard, is what the glass they call.
Right.
But it is colored with uranium oxide. So if you put a black light on it, it'll glow green. This one will also glow bright green.
Right.
So this is one particular shade that we have that's very interesting. Opal shades don't luminesce. They reflect a purple light. But this shade, if you notice, is a little tinted. This is a 329, but it had a little bit of a batch plat. It was made after the custard ones. Glass is made in batches, so they run through different colors, but they never let the plant go cold. So when they added the opalescent to this one, it still had some custard in it, and it got a little bit of uranium glass in it. And this is the only one we have that actually glows like this.
And that came on that lamp.
Yeah, it came on that lamp.
Your run-of-the-mill 200 days,
Yeah.
nothing special.
Nothing special.
Well, the burgundy's kind of special, and the 200 and the red and green 200A, but kind of progression down from the other end, 242 to 242A, B, and C, and 243A.
Yeah, and the 242Cs that are nickel, and then the other ones are green. I think this is the 45. This one's actually marked US 45 on it. Would have been one of the, yeah, that would have been a later military one. A 220. This is a later 220B. A wartime BX. This is the closest one we can get to Dwayne's birthday lantern. It's 8 of 1943. There were no 9 of 43, so it's as close.
They didn't make anything in September of 43?
No.
What, everybody take a
Yeah,
month
so
off?
this is as
Yep.
close as we can get to a birthday lantern.
Okay.
The 220D that's in there that has the burgundy ventilator on it, the burgundy ventilator's off of an AGM, but I just kind of like the combination.
Very pretty.
So the original ventilator for this is laying here on the shelf. The 51DE, right when they were changing over. I think some of the ones that are in the boxes, both of these boxes here, are both transitional. They call them transitional. They're just the late production 228Es.
Right.
They changed the collar on them to the new style. Everybody calls them a transitional, but they were just the late production.
Right.
A little thermos. 2 little Durcamps. Durcamps were made in Japan.
They're cute.
They are cute.
Yeah, it's a nice color
It was a
combination.
nice color, and they're really cool. And
So, did Durcamp buy Coleman's ventilators and
they just copied them.
they
As
copied
far
them?
as I know, they just copied everything as far as we know.
Sure close. And we got some Sears.
Yeah, and then there's the Sears. So the reds were first. Then they went to blue. And then they changed the label on the end ones down there.
Right.
So there's a set of red and black, 200, 220, 228 size. Then there's a set of blue and black with the round black label.
Right.
And then there is a set of the blue and black with the square Sears label. There's a 228 inside the Sears box.
And then you got a couple greenies back there.
Yeah, the
Yeah.
greens were in the 70s when avocado green was so popular.
And a Ted.
Just one.
Here's one.
They are so pretty. That red is such a pretty color.
Yep.
I think. I don't believe
Holy
there's
cow, look at that.
my granddaughter and grandson.
Okay.
And a nice cup from some guy. Those are just pretty much run of the mill.
No, they're just 427s with the pump.
Except for one.
The one was given to me, was my great grandfather's, who I never knew, and and he gave it to his son and my dad, and he could never get it to go, and I acquired it, and that's the only lantern that I've ever used. I got it when I was not quite 18, and that's the only lantern that I ever used throughout my whole adult life for camping.
Wow.
Only had one, and man, that thing, I can't tell you how many hours it's got on it.
Handy pail back there.
Yeah, and this is a really interesting handy pail. It's got the original label and everything on it, and this was Dwayne's other grandfather.
Oh, wow.
And it's a 242B over A stamp.
It was my grandfather's, and he used it while he camped. I don't know. I think he bought it new in the pail, and he used it through all his camping, and then when he was done, he gave it to my dad, and my dad used it all the time that we camped, and
Yeah, and
then Dad was done with it and gave it to me.
if you notice, these cans were manufactured in Los Angeles, and they show up in the Los Angeles hardware catalogs.
Okay, now we got some Caros.
214.
Nothing special,
201.
639.
Yeah. You got a Canadian 237.
What's this one back here?
This-
236.
Yeah,
236 major.
that's a major.
Those 236s are nice.
They're nice, big, heavy-duty lantern.
Put out a lot of light.
And then we got this thing. Wow. I've never seen one of these. Go ahead, Darcy. This
No,
one
no,
right here.
this is Dwayne's
This is
baby.
Dwayne's, okay,
This is
Dwayne.
Dwayne's
Talk
baby.
to us about this thing.
It was in an antique store in Sacramento area that when we used to go up and see Mom and Dad, and I looked at it several times, and I thought, now somebody soldered this thing together, and it didn't look right, and I don't know if I finally just got tired of looking at it and bought it, or actually found out what it was. I'm not sure.
I don't.
But it's a number 5 AGM street lamp in the catalog. That's what it's described as, and that's its number 5 street light or lamp. And it was used, shows pictures in the catalog of it, used down around on lakes, on docks. It has maybe a 3/4 inch hole goes up through the center of it, that it was just set on a pole along the docks to light the dock up at night.
Yeah, when you look at
I think there's a handful or more of them out there.
Yeah, they found some more now, but
All right, now we got this little
piano lamp.
piano lamp.
It's piano lamp. The fount's back here, and this would come over the edge of your player piano and light your player piano.
Wow. Very cool.
Player
AGM did some really interesting stuff. They were quite innovative on a lot of their things that they did. There's another version of this that actually comes up, where this is actually more turned and upright, and it was called a jeweler's lamp that the jeweler would put on his table to do watch repairs and that type of thing. Yep, that's a 334 or 5. The one in the back.
Should have a tag on it.
334. Yeah.
The size of that fountain.
The one next to it with the blue ventilator, look at the bottom of that.
Oh yeah. Let me.
That's what makes kind of that
That's why that one is here. And this one's really cool if you can find it. It actually had a blue auxiliary shade ring that went on it to make it larger. But it's got its original label.
Wow.
Coleman made the shade rings that made them wider, and AGM did too, but the AGM ones don't show up. There's a few of them around, but they're a real pretty blue one that fits on this and then makes it like a 228 size. This is an earlier AGM, a later American Sunflame.
Why is this valve bent?
It's not bent.
Not bent.
It was designed that way and
Yeah.
sold that way. I don't know why,
Nope, but they're all
but
that
it was,
way.
no, it is not bent. It was, the only thing I can think of is it tilted it down away from some of the heat.
And they were really, AGM was really cool. They decided to do Art Deco.
Yes, they did.
So they did the Art Deco, and the one in the back is actually kerosene, and it's like marked for kerosene only.
Right.
They were very innovative in their designs. They did different things.
Couple monster turners.
Yeah, one's Montgomery Ward's and the other is, don't know. You'd have to look,
I think
sneak
the other
in
one
there
was
and look at
just
the cap.
Akron, yeah.
But if you look at those two, look at the different way the bales are attached.
Yep.
To basically the same ventilator.
Just like in Bozeman, we have Colemans everywhere, so we just got to go out and find them all.
So the two on the end are Optimus,
Okay.
930.
Oh, you
Yikes.
booger.
Don't drop that on the shade. The brass 930 on the left side has the glass handle, and that originally would also come with a parchment shade that fit down over the top. That one was made in brass, and it is one of the very first 930s that was made. It's an older one. The ones on the end are by Aladdin. The one on the end that has the nickel fount, I actually found that at a flea market in Southern California, and it was a really nice by Aladdin. It's in great shape, and it was missing one vent nut was all that was missing on that thing, and it's a really good lantern. Next one's a by Aladdin T10.
The white one?
Uh-huh. That thing burns really good, and it burns forever. It's very kind of Art Deco-ish. The next are Tilly. The next one is by Aladdin that's military. That was a military by Aladdin, and that was a gift from Neil McRae. Neil brought that to me and gave it to me in Wichita when he was there in 2000. And the one on the end is a Tilly 410, and it actually has the little ventilator on the top of it, the little extra vent ring on it, and that's the only one I know of around with the vent ring on it. It was an import to the United States. It wasn't sold in the UK. Thacker brought that in through their distribution center, and it was sold primarily here in the United States, so you don't find those in the UK. Aladdin's and a 227.
L.
Oh, the L.
L227 with the capture nut and
And
a
a
bracket
BQ.
lamp with Craig Seabrook reproduction 317 shade and the nickel band. Those heater adapters were on the gas plants were something that Coleman made and sold. They're in the export catalog.
That is a Tilly KL80. New light chandeliers were really pretty.
You had one in Bozeman, and you said it was probably the only one that had the original.
Original shades, yes.
Same
Yeah.
lamp?
Same lamp.
Yeah.
Both of the shades on these are 1970s Aladdins.
Okay.
Down in the corner is a by Aladdin and a Tilly heater. The heaters also came with a conversion that you could put a lantern head on it, use it for light.
Oh.
So it could be both. And this one over here is a by Aladdin heater. And I think the by Aladdin heater, I just like the design of the grate and everything on it. It's really cool.
That's really pretty. This is a 500A with a heater on it. And Okay. Then we have another one in the back.
And the one in the back is just a cut off top of a old kerosene heater. Somebody took the top off of a kerosene heater and cut it down and just made a heat for his 500.
Yeah, made a heat drum out of it.
Yeah. Made,
All right, what's this one? I'm starting to get it from the side view.
yeah.
Holy cow, that thing's big.
Tilly. And this one is black and red. It is in the colors of British Rail. This lamp was used on the British Rail for doing night work and different things. This actually came from the UK from my friend John. And then on the top we have 500s, 520s, 530s, 521 in the back, more 500s. There's an AGM one in the back.
Yeah, there's the AGM one back there.
And this is a 1942 520, which has that in the back, and so this is a really
That's
cool
the civil
one.
defense one, isn't it?
This is civil defense.
It's written.
See? Yeah, property of Office of Civil Defense.
Wow. Well, we've seen your collection, both the northern version and the southern version, but now we'd like to know about you guys.
Well, you saw in our first video the lamp that was my grandmother's.
Yeah.
That just really got me interested in fuel lighting. I just liked making light. I thought it was really interesting, and that just led to going down the path of, you know, flat wicks and round wicks and Aladdins and then into other things.
So what was your second lamp? Do you remember?
Oh, I do. Dwayne gave me an Aladdin bracket lamp for Christmas.
So
He-
you started on Aladdin's.
I did. I started out pretty much as an Aladdin collector, but Aladdin's really saturated. I mean, the membership is, I think, currently now over 10,000 over the years. They make a lot of glass, so the glass collectors like Aladdin's. So they were really popular and saturated, and all the information was there. So, you know, with Dwayne getting started in the Coleman stuff, there was less stuff documented. And I got to know Phil Graff and Neil McRae and became a member of the International Guild of Lamp Researchers. And they researched tons of stuff. And it was just fascinating learning the history of it. I really like the history of developing the lighting and the people that tried to make more light to keep, it's called lengthening the day, to have light in the nighttime. And it's just an interesting part of history, and I've always really liked history.
And you're a researcher. You like researching.
Yeah, I like researching.
Okay.
I like digging.
All right. Yeah.
And a lot of things like Phil and Neil really concentrated on the burners and not the design of the accessories. So I kind of picked up on looking into the accessories, and that's where I got into the shades.
Okay.
It's like, okay, this one had this one, and this one had this one, and they market things differently. And a lot of the marketing in that day were to women,
Yes.
because, you know, the men were working till dark, so it was up to the women to light the lamps about 3 or 4 in the afternoon. So a lot of the lamp maintenance were the women.
Most all of it was.
Yeah. It
Filling
was all,
them, trimming the wicks, and
and everything. It was the women that were in charge of the lighting.
you
And
didn't, yeah, didn't use them for ambiance.
yeah,
They were, they needed to be already going when the sun went down.
yeah. So the women were part of it. And there's a really interesting book. If I'm not sure if it's been digitized or not, but it's a Coleman sales manual from in the 20s. It's all marketed to women. So, you know, so I kind of picked up on that part of it too.
He was out working on the farm. She was doing the ironing and the heaters and
Yeah,
all of that stuff.
Yeah,
How did that transition from Aladdin to Coleman?
him,
Him?
him, him.
Okay.
Because I'd go to the conventions with him and I'd look and, oh, that's really pretty and that. And part of it was probably in the late 90s. Ron and Charlene Becker had a little 6-page shade guide that they did that showed what they were. And I was really fascinated by that. And I started into the other gas pressure stuff and everything. And when I really got into it, I asked Charlene and Ron if it was okay with them if I took it further and did my first little book. And they were fine with that. And I really appreciate, because they really started it. I didn't.
Yeah, their little book was just black and white.
Oh, and the fun thing is a lot of those catalogs, everything's black and white. So you have to match the designs and the decals and everything else. And then to get a color one that matches what you found in the catalog, for a researcher, that's pretty exciting.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Dwayne, how'd you get started?
Well, I got started with that 427 that my dad gave me that he could never make work. I had trouble with it, and it was a Coleman repair bee at Grant Boys in Costa Mesa, California. It had the reps there fixing lanterns, lamps, mostly lanterns and stoves. So I took it over there, and they oogled and awed over it and showed me a bunch of stuff that I had no clue about. And they fixed it, and they had all of the information on the Coleman Collectors Club, the little brochure and membership. And so I joined the Collectors Club. I can't tell you what year it was.
I think 96.
96,
Yeah,
somewhere around
96,
there, I
yeah.
guess. And then that was my camping lantern. I was 18 at the time. That was my camping lantern for the whole time that I camped, and it's still usable.
Sure.
We always had a kind of a contest, my dad and brothers, when they nighted, we'd light lanterns, and mine was always the brightest.
So, yeah, Darcy was telling me your brothers are collectors also. But
Yes.
What do they collect?
My brother Dennis collects barn lanterns, flat wicks, metal, not the glass, not the old glass lamps. He's got a very extensive collection of barn lanterns. A lot of rare, considered rare pieces, combined marked globe and lantern, and a lot of really interesting marked globes. He dabbled in Coleman for a while and sold most of it. And then my brother Kurt in Placerville, he has a shelf in one of the antique stores in downtown Placerville. And he buys mostly for resale unless he finds something that really interests him. And he does both flat wick, Aladdin, angle lamp, and Coleman stuff when he finds them at the flea market. But he usually sells them. And then my younger brother Jim doesn't. He's not into.
No.
He doesn't like light.
Okay, so how'd you transition from one lantern to where you're at today?
It just close the door, and in the dark they multiply.
Yeah.
Well,
They
and
just, and then when I got interested in it, we'd go to the swap meet at Cypress College and just take out cartfuls
yeah, we had a wagon full.
of 242 series and 200As. They were just mostly 242 series and 200As. They weren't too many. There were, but not too many of the 327s or 427s. But gosh, most any flea market that we went to, we just took them out of there in droves. Most everything that we have, lantern-wise, came from flea markets. They were just so plentiful, and I bought junk full well knowing it was junk, just for, especially if it had a globe in it, for $3 or $4. And, you know, he just kept adding them up and get a better one and put the other one in the shelf. And I don't have all that many that are just extra laying around, but I did used to. And I used all the parts when we moved. Anything that was questionable, founts and rusted frames, I just pretty much threw in the trash, unfortunately. Nobody wanted them. I had several people come over and nobody wanted to deal with them, so.
So, this is your opportunity to give the young collectors out there a piece of advice.
Don't say you'll never find one, because one corner you go around and there it will be.
It'll find you. Yeah.
So if you're not looking, you're not going to find them. And it's not, there's other things besides lanterns that Coleman makes that are pretty interesting. Most people probably don't realize that Coleman actually, lanterns were an afterthought. They came first was rural lighting. So all of the lamps were way before any lantern was ever made, so.
So there you are, friends. Another short visit with D&D LanternWorks is in the books. Darcy and Dwayne, thank you so much for inviting me into your beautiful home and allowing me to film your incredible collection for the rest of the world to see. If you like this video, please give me a thumbs up and consider subscribing to the channel. You can find me on Facebook, Instagram, and at oldtowncoleman.com. And until next time, keep 'em burning.